Yefimovich, Chapter 3. It was silent for a moment, and then Yekaterina spoke. "That didn't make me happy at all. Why did it end so sadly?" she wondered aloud. "I asked that very same question, and he told me that he didn't see it as a cheerless message. He said, 'You defeated time, and you defeated hopelessness.' Those were his greatest fears, and to conquer them and to achieve his vision as a renowned novelist, it was his utopia, something few get to achieve. I never forget what he said next, though. Fate can only guide you to your dream, your purpose. But you must have the courage to reach out and take it. For what is life without purpose? And what is man without a dream?" "They are nothing," Yekaterina whispered. "They are nothing," Yefimovich echoed and kissed his daughter on the forehead. "So chin up. The road you're laying is more stunning than anyone's I've ever seen." "Thanks, Dad. I love you." Yefimovich rose from the bed and moved to close the door, and as he was leaving her room, turned to his daughter and said, "Endure. Always endure. I love you, Kat." Yekaterina smiled at her father as he left her to her thoughts. The world spun into a new day, and then it spun again, like cotton on a gin, and the night dissolved to day. Yefimovich and his family sat aboard the Orbital One. He was studying a speech he had written the day before. "Sir, we are about to take off. Please stow your belongings until we are in orbit," instructed one of the pilots. The sand around the massive orb defied gravity, hovering in space, rising into the air. The craft gave a noise of low bass that modulated to a lower frequency, a mechanical sound, almost robotic. It was then silent for only a half a second, but to Yefimovich it always seemed like a lifetime. Then the vehicle gave a whip to the wind as it propelled itself skyward, breaking the sound barrier, only feet from the ground and howling itself into space. "Have I told you that I hate flying?" he asked his wife. "Only every time we take the Orbital One." She rolled her eyes at him and grabbed his hand. "We'll soon be there, Yefi." Yefimovich hated travelling in space. The silence was deafening. With no earth beneath his feet, he felt out of his element, almost as if a part of him were missing. And though he always hated the flight, he always loved the views. The blues and browns and greens of the earth. The art of God, painted with snow-covered mountains, vast, endless oceans. Storms smearing the paint, giving life to the portrait. "Beautiful, isn't it?" He spoke faintly. "It's like looking into a fire. No matter how many times you look at it, it's always mesmerizing," Victoria said tacitly. Yefimovich didn't say it, but he thought to himself, "And soon a new and sad color will be added to the picture, one only seen when the lives of men are given to the earth." The hours slipped through time, just as moments slip through fingers, never to be experienced again. As they re-entered the atmosphere, the shuttle hissed to a sound like steam rushing through pipes. It grew louder, and with it came a deep, hallowed whine, like a humpback sings its sad song in the lonely seas. There was chatter between the pilots as they discussed the landing in terms Yefimovich had never really understood. He looked out of the window, and the earth seemed to move toward him quickly and boldly. His eyes grew wide at the sight, frightened by the rush of the flight. The cacophony became voiceless, and the Vetovicle decelerated, the cabin depressurized, and Yefimovich's heart thumped heavy, tickling the cage of his ribs. His hand still held Victoria's, locked and unyielding. She ran her free hand across the backside of his hand that held hers, comforting him until he released his tight grip. Of the 9 islands, they landed on the largest. The native people called it Wakan Tanka Island. Yefimovich exited the craft to see the jungle before him. Palms cavorting in the flurry, bent to the might of the gust as it passed. Oaks, broad and hearty, waved their branches as if to guide the wind east, off to distant seas and faraway lands. In the distance, pines climbed mountains, and where the trees could not climb, bedrock patched the steep cliffs a sandy brown. The weather was hot and humid. Yefimovich wiped his brow as sweat was already seeping from his hairline. An attendant approached the guards that surrounded Yefimovich. "Sir, if you will follow me, we will check you and your family in, and you can be on your way." "Thank you," he said to the young man, whose hair was of yellow feathers mixed with orange and black that spiked upward into the air. The man wore soft leather shoes they called chahunipa, and pants made from a similar material with patterns of triangles, stars, and flowers lining the seams of the leggings. The bronzed man did not wear a shirt, but his arms and torso were stamped with tattoos, some ceremonial, others as self-expression. Yefimovich showed his passport to the attendee. She asked a few questions of him, marked his paperwork, and then the Heavohe man came to him again. "This way, Prime Minister. Your luggage and family are awaiting you at the front." Yefimovich followed the man along with one of his guards, and as he turned the corner to where his family was waiting, standing in front of him was a gigantic deer with massive antlers that glowed in the shadows with patterns that swirled like fallen leaves spinning in the wind. Its coat was dirty brown with spotted white dots that blushed in the shade. The creature stood 40 foot tall, standing on all four hooves. It turned its face towards Yefimovich as he approached the beast. It seemed to be looking through him, but its menacing look did not frighten him. His wife and daughter were already seated on the animal. The attendant walked ahead of Yefimovich to assist him up onto the deer. "Let me help you, sir," he requested. "Just a second," Yefimovich said to the native man as he walked to face the towering mammal. "What do you call this?" He looked up and stared the creature in the eyes as the beast looked down and returned the gaze. "It is called Kanlochen," said the native man. Yefimovich reached up to brush his hand across the face of the deer. The beast moved its weaponized head down towards the outreached hand of Yefimovich and licked his fingers. The gentle giant then knelt down. Yekaterina and Victoria gasped at the movement. "Dad, what are you doing?" Yekaterina asked a bit nervously. "He seems to like honey." He smiled as the deer looked at him anxiously for more. Yefimovich stroked the creature's face and then hoisted himself onto his back. "He's beautiful, isn't he?" he asked in admiration of the Kanlochen. The animal rose from the ground and gave a half-hearted grunt as the attendant gave a deafening whistle, signalling the animal to move forward. The Heavohe man rode atop a smaller Kanlochen with one of Yefimovich's guards. There was another Kanlochen behind him, as well as another to his left, both much smaller than the one he rode on. It then struck him that he was riding on the back of the father. "Where is the mother?" he shouted down below. "Ochlach the Makka," the man shouted back. "I don't understand," said Yefimovich. "She is no longer with us, killed by Mato." He spoke with a sadness that spread across his face. "What is a Mato?" Yefimovich asked with slight concern. "The gargantuan monster with claws as tall as me, and teeth sharper than the finest blade, with a roar that rumbles like thunder. You call this a bear. We call it Fankanwita, the master of the forest." His accent made the beast seem mysterious, even more so than the beast was on its own accord. The forest grew thick with chromatic plants. Their colours seemed animated as they walked past them, a shimmering display of living wavelengths perceived by the naked eyes as colour. The expanse of the trees loomed ever skyward, prodigious in their size, mesmerising in their design. Lines like veins waved up their bodies and through its branches. Yefimovich watched as the water moved from the roots, giving life to the tree that was once a seed buried in the underground, unknown to all, and then sprouting into a sapling until it grew, fighting off pests, withstanding nature's wrath, holding firm until it was what it became. The Carnlochen trekked forward with polished, hushed steps until it reached a 3-story cone structure, moulded within a large tree made of animal hides. Decorated on the sides of the teepee were prancing horses, galloping around the elephantine tent. Yefimovich looked back at his daughter. She looked at him with a grin and mouthed the words, "Thank you," to her father. Yefimovich replied with a wink, as his wife gave him a small squeeze, expressing her gratitude for the week they planned together. "How do you get off these wonderful creatures?" Yefimovich spoke aloud. "Like this." Yekaterina stood up on the Carnlochen's back and wielded the air around her, guiding her down softly to the forest floor. "See you down there, Yefi." Victoria kissed the back of his neck and leapt off the deer. As she approached the ground, fire came from her hands and feet, propelling her upward to gently slide her down as gravity took over. "You coming?" Yekaterina yelled up to her father. Yefimovich rose to his feet, kissed the head of the elegant beast, and jumped, falling rapidly to the surface until he sunk into the earth, only to be spit out behind his wife and daughter. Victoria slapped him on the shoulder. "Don't ever do that again. I hate when you bury yourself like that," she scolded him. "Scare you?" he laughed. Victoria didn't answer. "I thought it was rather magnificent," Yekaterina said in amusement. The family paused to look at where they were staying, and then walked into the 3-story teepee built in a tree. The teepee was lavished in decor from all 9 islands. There were sofas and beds dressed in furs from the jungles of Wakantanka, tableware from the volcanic islands known as Fivana, sanded smooth floors from Kazmu, flowers and plants that line the 10th from Wanaheya, as well as tables and furniture from the second largest island, Chankazeppo. The paintings and artifacts within the home came from the remaining islands that enriched the house with cultural splendour. The humid air of the jungle soon lifted and cooled as the sun hid from the moon. The lunar beauty searched the entire night sky for the sun until it could no longer seek it, and when it itself laid below the horizon, the sun peeked from its hiding place, reaching out into the blue sky for its dear friend.